Hello everyone, I am Dr. Sana Farooqui, Assistant Professor from the Department of English, BSSS Bhopal. Would like to welcome you all in today's session where we are going to discuss of this novel titled The Mayor of Casterbridge by Thomas Hardy. Before going for the novel, let us talk about this writer, let us talk about this novelist. So, we are going to talk about Thomas Hardy, who is one of the most famous novelists and poets of the early 19th and 20th century. Let us talk about the key facts of this novel. So, we have the novel titled The Mayor of Casterbridge, which is keeping a subtitled The Life and Death of a Man of Character. So, in this we are going to talk about a male protagonist and his life that would eventually lead him to death. Next is, this novel is published serially from January-May 1886 in Graphic Magazine in England and Harper's Weekly in the United States in book form in 1886. Now, let us talk about the literary period. As we all are aware that Thomas Hardy belongs to Victorian era, but you can also find that this novel is comprised of with some elements of modernism in it. What is the genre of this novel? Now, this novel is comprised of tragedy and somewhere it is keeping realistic fiction as well. Now, who is the protagonist and antagonist of this novel? This is Michael Henchard, and we are going to talk about this in the later part when we will discuss the character sketches. Next is the point of view. So, this novel has been written in third person omniscient. Let us talk about the setting of this novel. So, this novel is comprised of two different settings. It would start with fair which would be there in Weydon Priors, that is near Casterbridge, and later on it would move to the next neighbouring town, that is Casterbridge. So, this novel starts with Weydon Priors, which is there near Casterbridge, and later on it would jump to the next neighbouring town, that is Casterbridge. Now, Casterbridge, it is a fictional name of a town which is there in England. Now, let us start with this characters of this novel. Before going with the story, let us move with the characters here. You can see on your screen there are a total of 8 characters which have been mentioned. First in the list is Michael Henchard. This is the male protagonist of this novel, who will be a hero and maybe at the end would be a tragic figure. Next is Susan Henchard. You can see the surname. She was Michael Henchard's wife. Third in the list we have is Elizabeth Jane Newson. Now, Elizabeth Jane Newson was the daughter to Michael Henchard and Susan Henchard. Fourth in the list is Donald Farfrae. Now, Donald Farfrae is a merchant who was there in Casterbridge. Later on, once I will tell you the story, you will come to know about this character more in detail. Fifth in the list is Lucetta Templeman. Now, Lucetta Templeman again is a tragic figure who would fall in love with Michael Henchard once he will move to the next neighbouring town from Weydon Priors to Casterbridge, and this she would also die at the end. And sixth in the list is Newson. This is the character who was a sailor, and he is the one who would later on would buy this lady Susan Henchard in that fair. Seventh in the list is Joshua Job. Joshua Job is a minor character who was working under Michael Henchard, which is there in Casterbridge, and next is Abel Whittle. Again, he is a minor character. Now, I did talk on the characters. Let us go in deep of it so that you can understand better. So, first in the slide is Michael Henchard. You can see his picture. He is the male protagonist. He is the hero of this novel. So, he is a male protagonist who was earlier a hairtrusser. He was a drunken, he was in a drunken rage, and he sells his wife, and later on story moves to 18 years ahead, and Henchard has risen to become the mayor and the most accomplished corn merchant in the town of Casterbridge. So, he would be the one who would sell his wife. He is the one who would auction his wife. He would sell his wife in the rage of drunkenness, and later on once he'll come to know about what he did to his family, just to change his mind, just to change his life, he would shift from Weydon Priors to the next neighbouring town, that is Casterbridge. So, and later on he would become a famous merchant there. Next in the character list is Elizabeth Jane Newson. So, you can see this picture. She was the one who was the daughter to Suzanne and Newson. Now how come Newson has been mentioned here, we will talk about this later. So she bears the same name as the child born to Suzanne and Henchard. Over the course of the novel, the independent and self-possessed Elizabeth Jane transformed herself from an unrefined country girl into a cultured lady. Once I'll tell you the story, you will come to know how she cultured herself or how she transformed herself, and you know, she experiences much hardship over the course of novel, and later on she maintains an even, you know, a temperament throughout. Next slide is going to talk about the character titled Newson. Now he was the one, he's a sailor here, he was the one who would you know, buy this lady Suzanne Henchard, who was the wife to Michael Henchard, and the sailor who buys Suzanne and Elizabeth Jane from Henchard has been written here. You'll find in the novel that Newson is absent for most of the parts, and eventually he would you know, reappear at the end of this novel and contribute to the feeling that Henchard is beside by the fate. Next in the line we have Donald Farfrae. So in the picture you can see that this is you know, Michael Henchard, and this one is Donald Farfrae. Both became friends when they were there in you know, Casterbridge. Donald Farfrae was actually a Scotch man who arrives in Casterbridge at the same time as Suzanne Henchard and Elizabeth Jane visited there. So Farfrae's business efficiency, good humor, polish make him extremely popular among the town's you know, citizens. Whoever you know, was living there in Casterbridge, the citizen of Casterbridge became so impressed with Donald Farfrae, because he was a very genuine hearted person, he was a very grounded you know, kind hearted person, and these same qualities however eventually make him Henchard's rival. So you'll come to know in the story that later on you know, Michael Henchard and Donald Farfrae would become envy of each other. Now despite this tension in this friendship, Farfrae remains fair-minded, patient and even kind in his dealings with the ruined Henchard. So you'll come to know in the story that later on, just because of you know, Michael Henchard's cursed you know, past, he will be you know, he will become envious to Donald Farfrae. Next in line we have Lucetta Templeman. Remember I showed you this character in the character list, that this is a woman whom Henchard meets, courts and proposes to marry, but he could not marry her. So Lucetta bucks convention, choosing to love whom she pleases when she pleases, and like Henchard, she is guided by her emotions, her reactions, and does not always rational. So she will become a tragic figure at the end. She would you know, commit suicide because of the skimmington. Now what is that skimmington? You will come to know about it once I will tell you the story. Next in the line we have Joshua Jopp. He is a minor character. He was the one who you know, the man Henchard intends to hire as his assistant before meeting Farfrae. So Joshua Jopp was the one who was working under you know, Michael Henchard. But once Michael Henchard would you know, would meet Farfrae, this character Joshua Jopp will be fired by his owner. So later on Joshua Jopp will become a villainous character in the novel, and you will find it in the end. So this is all about the characters, and in the next part of this video we are going to talk about the summary of this novel titled The Mayor of Casterbridge by Thomas Hardy. Thank you so much. We will meet in the next video.